The $1,000,000 question: how do entrepreneurs transition from self-employed to owning a business that turns a profit? My name is Chris Waters, and this podcast has the $1,000,000 answer. Welcome to CEO Secrets. Guys, welcome to the show, CEO Secrets. If this is your first time on the podcast, in this podcast, we talk about how to make the transition from being a producing salesperson or entrepreneur to a CEO, where you're no longer trading your time for money. We have a special guest on the show today. This is Michael Hellickson, the founder of Club Wealth, one of the premier coaching companies in the real estate industry. Michael, welcome.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Christopher. As soon as he said one of, I'm like, what? Did he just say one of? I think he meant the. I'm not just kidding. I'm totally.
Hey, you know what? The coaching space is very crowded, and I've been through almost every coaching program out there, and they all are great for their specific need. And sure. something I look forward to diving into here in a moment is I really like how you scaled in your coaches based off their experience and expertise. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Hey guys, for those of you guys, if you're currently watching this on Facebook Live in our private Facebook group, please comment in the comment section if you have any questions. If you want to ask Michael anything off the cusp, ask him. If you're watching this on iTunes or maybe a replay on YouTube, remember you can actually check out our private Facebook group and get access to these before anybody else and ask live questions. We've had some pretty amazing guests on here. So anyways, let's get into it. Michael, where should we start? Why don't you tell everybody, you started off as a real estate agent and you crushed it. Why don't we start there, and then, kind of how you built this huge mega business and then, started Club Wealth. Let's hear the career trajectory of Michael Hellickson.
Well, okay, I'll make it super fast so not to bore anybody. But I when I was a young boy back in high school, really, literally, it was like 1991. I was in high school thinking to myself, how do people make millions, right? And I thought most people that have made millions become millionaires. They've either made it or held it or both in real estate. And then I thought, okay, well, if I'm gonna hold my wealth in real estate, if I'm gonna grow my wealth through real estate, how do I get there? How do I get the money to invest and all that? And then I thought, well, it's sales, right? I mean, the highest paid profession is always sales. And so I thought, okay, what are the highest ticket items I can sell and without a college degree? Because I didn't want to go to college. And it was airplanes or real estate. And frankly, even though I fly a lot, I get sick when I fly. So I'm like, screw that. I'll do real estate. And it made sense. So started selling real estate in high school. I was the number one agent in my office before I graduated high school, which really just meant I was less broke than everybody else. But I was still broke. And then eventually grew a team. We grew the number one team in the country. We're very consistently listing and selling over 100 homes a month.
Michael, at one point you had 800 active listings?
750.
750 active listings. That's insane. Yeah. That's a lot of listings. And it's not like you had this big mega brokerage with hundreds of agents. There's a very lean, mean group of people.
16 agents. So
with 750 listings. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, our listing team, which just happened to be all guys, which is surprising because 9 times out of 10, if you want something done right, you got to get a woman to do it because they'll do a better job, right? But it just so happened we found, 4 of the guys that actually could figure out how to get some stuff done. And these guys are our weakest listing agents were listing 10 to 15. So I had 4 of them. Generally, I had 5 at the peak, but 4 usually. The bottom 2 were doing 10 to 15 listings a month. The top 2 were very consistently doing 18 to 21 listings a month, and I was doing anywhere from 50 to 75 listings a month.
So here's what I want to extract from you. So you crushed it as a salesperson. At a certain point, you hit some ceiling where you're like, okay, if I'm going to grow, I need to get other people. I need to train other people to replace myself. How did you mentally make that transition? Because it's tough to have faith in other people, especially when you you're doing really well at something and you also don't want to take a reduction in your standard of living. Mentally, how did you make that transition?
It was hard. There's no easy way to put it. It sucked. It was hard. And I'll tell you, my first coach, this was, oh my gosh, 94 is when I hired my first coach. I had hit a plateau in my business, and he told me I needed to get an assistant. And I struggled with it because I had no idea how I was going to afford to hire an assistant. But I thought, well, this guy seems to know better than I do, and people seem to trust him, and people that are doing very well are working with him. So I'm going to go ahead and trust him, and I'm going to hire an assistant. So I did. I hired a wonderful young woman who helped me with the things that I was not great at, who really allowed me to focus on the things that I was good at and the things that I enjoyed more. Like, I didn't enjoy the data entry and the paperwork and all that garbage on the back end. I was really a hunter more than a skinner, right? I like to go out and get it, bring it back in, let somebody else deal with it. Yep. And so I hired this gal, and she immediately helped me grow my business. What's interesting is 4 years later, she became my wife. That's when I went to work for her. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But, and it's interesting because her second month working for me, I had lead gen pretty well dialed in, had a bunch of stuff in the pipeline. Her second month working for me, I decided I'm going to go to Europe and take a couple of weeks off and go to Europe. Well, the first 2 weeks I was gone, she sold 6 houses. I'm like, screw this. I'm staying another 4 weeks. And so I ended up staying for 6 weeks. She sold more houses while I was gone than I did while I was there. It was awesome.
You thought, man, I got to marry this girl.
Dude, it was pretty straightforward at that point. There was no way that one was getting away.
So let me ask you a couple of basic questions just out of curiosity, because I know some people are going to ask this. Yeah. What were you doing on the lead gen side to develop listing leads for your listing agents? What were you doing in the beginning? What were some of those tactical things? I got to ask, but that's in one box. Another thing a lot of people are going to ask is like, you got lucky with your first executive assistant being amazing, but I'm sure you've hired people and they haven't worked out very well. And so I also want to understand, like tactically, what do you do to make sure you're recruiting and selecting the right people when you're about to like hand the baton off to somebody else? So
first of all, I love both those questions. They're fantastic. Let's start with the easiest one first, and that's the lead gen. So on the lead gen side, I started off like most people chasing business, right? Over time, I learned how to attract business, but it took time. And it took money and took a lot of effort, and it took screwing up a lot. But eventually I was able to transition from chasing business to attracting business. So as that happened, and so on the chasing business side, I was doing FSBOs, expireds, cold calls, door knocking, open houses, you name it. I was doing all of it. I was just doing more of it than most people. So I'd pound the phones for a long time every day, at least 4 hours a day. And when I got sick of that, I'd go hold open houses and do other stuff. And I was doing marketing too, but I couldn't afford in the beginning to do a lot of marketing. I didn't have any money. And so until I started getting a few dollars behind me, I spent most of the time doing things that don't cost money, that just required my time. I was just willing to put more time into it than most agents were.
What's fascinating is like, I like to compare like the beginning stage of you like chasing business, kind of like going to the gym. It's like, there are the people that'll go to the gym consistently daily, and they'll do like, 10 reps and like 10 different machines. And then you got the people that I've heard it's called the executive workout, which is you walk in the gym, you walk on the treadmill for like 10 minutes, and then you head to the sauna or steam room and hang out there for 15 to 20 minutes, and then you leave.
That's my kind of workout. I like that. I know that's not what you would do, but that's totally my kind of workout.
Yeah, no, man.
That's why you look like you do and I look like I do, though.
Well, the thing is like, I think if there's something I've learned, because when I meet people that talk about, their challenges from a growth perspective, is I ask them to document their day from like sun up to sundown for 2 weeks, which is incredibly difficult to do, to like actually keep track of that, like keep pen and paper with you for 2 weeks. And when I get like every single time I get people's results back, it's like, their schedule's so random, they're like doing all kinds of random stuff, messing with their website, doing this, doing that. And, they get focused on the wrong things. And it's like, it really is like simple in the beginning stage, no matter what kind of business you're in, just apply massive effort of like actually talking to as many people as humanly possible. I mean, you'd be better off walking around a grocery store with the name tag than like trying to figure out how to build a website, So anyways,
there's really, okay, let me jump on that just for a second, because you're right on with that. There's 3 things that agents have to do every single day. There's just 3 things that lead to money and success. lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion.
Mhm.
Everything else is noise.
Yeah.
And 90% of your day's got to be on those three things. Well, in the beginning, it's usually lead generation that's the hardest part. Over time, you get good at lead generation, especially to your point, as you dial in your perfect daily schedule, and let's say you spend from, the first 4 hours of every day on your lead generation, lead follow-up. You get really good at your lead generation, you develop a pipeline, and you start to automate a lot of that lead generation to the point where you don't have to spend as much time chasing business. Now it's coming to you. And now your time gets focused on lead follow-up. As an example, when I was listing 50 to 75 houses a month, I was only working 12 days a month. But here's what I did. I'd go on 6 to 8 appointments a day. And in between those appointments, I would literally make 115 to 125 follow-up calls. But the last 15 years of my career, I never called a FSBO. I never called an expired or a cold call. All I did was follow-up calls. So I was calling people that had reached out to me, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Game changer. And so now that said, we got to jump back because you had asked the question about the system.
Yes. Yeah. So you hit a home run the first time around, but I'm sure that was not the case for a lot of future hires.
Not even close.
Let's hear the genius on the tactical aspect of the recruiting and selection process.
We may need to get somebody else on your podcast if you want to hear the genius, but I'll give you my version. I've hired thousands of people over the years. So I owned a VA company. We had 134 VAs at one point. For the real estate side, at the peak, we had the 16 agents, but we had 44 team members overall. So most of them were admin. And that's, by the way, how we got our profitability up, because it's a lot cheaper to hire admin than it is to hire agents. And frankly, they do a better job of 99% of the stuff they do. And we only want agents to do the agent stuff. So we segmented that workflow, got a lot more profitable that way. But I'll tell you, like right now, we go through, so we do interviews every single Thursday. Every Thursday. So we're always running ads for hiring, and we're hiring for all positions all the time. And when I find the right person, I hire them. I don't even care if I need to fill that position right now. I find a great person, I got a spot for them.
So hold on. So let me just dissect this. So at the top of the funnel, you're running ads 24/7. You're setting appointments to meet people on Thursdays. And then, do you do a phone interview? Are you meeting them in person? What's that process look like?
So first of all, yes, to all of what you said. We use WiseHire a lot. They do a great job for us on filling the top end of the funnel. We do some other stuff too. But once we get the people coming in the front of the funnel, we automate we have an automated campaign that essentially goes out and says, Christopher, man, I'm so glad you applied. After reviewing your resume, we'd like to invite you for an interview on Thursday at 10:15. What's interesting is every single candidate got that same email. But it doesn't look like it to Christopher. He thinks that he's the only one that got an email, right?
Sure.
And it says 10:15 because when you say 10:15, it's, oh my gosh, I'm a specific time. I got to be there for that interview. So it encourages them to be on time. They're more likely to show up on time. So we'll get anywhere from 8 to 40 people showing up.
Wow.
Yeah, literally every single time. And so I don't even do this part anymore. I used to, but now I send my wife, Tara, who was my first person that I hired. I send her and Aubrey, our team leader. They go down to the office and they hold these interviews every week. And basically what they do is they give the spiel. Here's what it is. Here's a little bit about the company. Here's the jobs that are available. Here's why you're here. Here's our culture. This is what we expect. This is how we work, yada, yada, yada. They sell the dream. And then it's all right. Now what we're going to do is those of you that are still interested, stick around. We're going to do a 1 to 3 minute interview with each one of you. And if we decide in that 1 to 3 minutes that we like you and that we feel like you might be a good fit for the team, then we will schedule a more in-depth one-on-one interview with you. If not, we appreciate you coming by. And if you've decided already that's not for you, there's the door. We appreciate you coming by. Have a great day.
So the 1 to 3 minutes, what happens? What's the questions? What are you looking for?
There's one thing we're looking for. The number one thing we're looking for this way, first of all, we don't care about skill at this point. I really don't care about skill because we can train for skill, but we hire for attitude, right? So what we're looking for, the number one thing I've told them to be paying attention to here is, do I want to hang out with this person on the weekend? If I don't want to hang out with you on the weekend, you're not getting an interview. End of story. Because that's the starting point for us, because there's nothing more important on our team than our culture. Everything else can be dialed in. Now, certainly that's not enough. Just being a great culture fit is not enough to be on our team, but it is a requirement to be on our team. So we start with that, and that eliminates 3/4 of the people right there immediately.
We must be reading the same books.
Are you doing something similar?
Yeah. So, I mean, what we'll tell people is when you're interviewing an agent or a staff member, what we tell our key leaders is you need to walk in the interview. Like, for example, if you're hiring an agent, walk into the interview like as if you're a buyer or seller. And the thing I want you to think about is how do they make you feel? Mm-hmm. So, like, if you were a buyer or seller, would you want to work with that person?
That's
like,
right.
do they make you feel excited? Do they seem confident and sure of themselves? Or are they all like, and it's like, it's a little awkward, right? Because they're going to make your leads that you give them feel the same exact way the first time you meet them. And that's their best their best selves right there at that first meeting. So I
100% agree.
Yeah. So 1 to 3 minutes. What's after that?
So they get the 1 to 3 minute interview, and then assuming they make it past that, which about 1 out of 4 at best will make it out of that. We usually are able to weed people out very quickly in that interview. Then they go to a one-on-one interview for either the following day or the next day. Usually it's the following day, so it's usually that Friday. We'll do the one-on-one interview, which is usually a 15 to 20-minute interview. And then if they make it past that interview,
what are you looking for in that one?
In that one, we're diving deeper. We're learning more about them, what makes them tick. We're asking them more deeper questions about, okay, so why did you leave this job? So we go through their job history. And one of the easiest things to do is talking about what did you make at this job? And here's why I want to ask them what they made, because so often people come to me with unrealistic salary or compensation expectations. So what I want to first know, and I want to get this off the table right away, otherwise it becomes an elephant in the room. And if they're thinking $30 an hour and I'm nowhere near there, dude, let's end it right now. Let's not waste any more of your time or mine. But more important than just that, I want to find out why they left their last company, because that can be very, very telling. And when I hear that, when I hear the stories about why they left that last company, I'm very cognizant of this is their side of that story. There is another side to this story. I really want to understand this because I can identify potential personality conflict type problems. There's all kinds of things I can find out here.
What's fascinating about that? So I did an interview.
Is our time up? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's my phone. So I did an interview recently with someone that had a background in building human resource departments in corporate America. Like, literally, I just did the interview with her, and she said, whatever they say about their last boss is exactly what they're going to say about you.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so that's why I want to hear things like what I'm looking for is, I really loved my last company. It's just my husband and I moved and I wasn't able to work remote. So I had to look for another job or you know what? I wasn't in a good place at the last company. Company was great. Team was great. I wasn't in a good place. I had some stuff going on in my life and I needed to get myself figured out before, and so it wasn't a good fit, not because of the company, but because I wasn't where I needed to be. That kind of someone who's that self-aware and who's got, dude, I mean, holy cow, like it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. And so, and look, there's no one right answer to it, but you really do get to find out who this person is when you ask the right questions in that one-on-one interview.
Cool. So after the 15 to 20 minute interview, they pass go. What's after that?
Then it goes to a group interview where the depending on which team they're going to be working with, if they're going to work with the sales team, the entire sales team interviews them. If they're going to work with the administrative team, the entire administrative team interviews them. And if anybody at any point in time has a red flag, they don't get hired. I'd rather say no today than bring somebody on that's going to be a problem later.
Got it. Okay. So if the group says go, then they're on board.
Then we do a 2-week working interview.
Okay.
And in the 2-week working interview, I won't even introduce them on the huddle. So we do a daily team huddle. They don't even get to be on the huddle until they pass their 2-week working interview. And we know that this person's going to be long-term because I don't even want the team bothering to remember this person's name until we're sure they're going to be on board.
Do you have an idea of what your follow-up ratio is, like with the working interview? Like how many people that it's low?
It's low. It's we're probably about 25% fallout on the 2-week working interview. By then, we've done a pretty good job vetting. But we do get quite a few. I mean, in the one-on-one interview, the 15-minute interview, we'll push 3/4 of those out easily. So there's the first 2 interviews are tough.
Yeah,
it's tough to get through those.
Got it.
And I'll tell you something else. I had one of my best team members that I ever hired was a gal named Maggie, and she became my office. She's a real estate agent in Seattle, Washington today. She's actually a broker for a company there now. She became our team leader at one point, and so she was responsible for our entire team at one point. But when she first started interviewing with me, I turned her away, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I turned her away in the interview process. She kept at it and kept at it and kept at it and kept coming back and kept coming back. And finally, I'm like, look, I'm not seeing it, but if you feel like you're going to be a great fit, I'll give you a shot. We'll bring you on for a 2-week working interview. Dude, it was game over from there. Like, she just was amazing.
Nice.
And I'll tell you another thing about staffing that's very interesting that I think that people forget. People that leave your team may come back. And some people say, oh, you leave my team, you're dead to me. Well, I don't buy that. One of the best team members I've ever had employed was a girl named Tamar. Tamar was fantastic, but she got to a point with us where she became a bit of a cancer. She started thinking the grass was greener elsewhere, started being a little bit more disagreeable with pretty much everything that I had to say. Everything was a problem for her, whatever. Long story short, she left, and she didn't leave really badly. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the way I would have seen it go down, but she left. She didn't burn the bridge on her way out the door, but she left. And she came back 4 or 6 months later. I can't remember how long. And she was extremely humble. She came back basically saying, look, I made a mistake. I love it here. I thought the grass was greener somewhere else. It's not. What do I need to do to get back on the team? I can't believe I ever left, yada, yada, yada. I offered her $2 an hour less than she was making before because I wanted her to prove it, that she was serious. She came on board, and she was the best employee. I tell you what, man, I've never had a better employee.
It's great emotional intelligence on her part.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. And that, now you're talking, okay, so that's another thing we could talk about is emotional intelligence and how important that is. I had one recently who emotional intelligence and business maturity go hand in hand, right? Mm-hmm. Where one of the biggest challenges we've found in hiring today is I'm not going to just blame it on millennials, but basically it's that 20 to 30-year-old range. Really, the 20 to 26-year-olds are the ones where we've had the hardest time lately, where they have high expectations of what they should get paid and what their value is, and very low expectations of what they should bring to the table and what should be expected of them. Mm-hmm. And we've had our challenges there, and they're very, we had one that had a lot of potential, could have been very good at what she did. And she chose to leave because she felt like the grass was greener somewhere else. She was in an administrative role, wanted to make more money, but didn't want to be in sales. So she took a job that I recognized from the job description was going to be a sales position, but she didn't think it was. She thought it was an administrative position. Takes this job because it's offering more money. Turns out she's cold calling all day, every day, and it's mostly bonused. And it's what do you do with that? How do you have that conversation with someone? Because in the moment, all they're going to think is, oh, you're just trying to convince me to stay here because you don't want me to leave, which then gives them an inflated opinion of their value again.
Right. So
at some point, you just have to say.
Sometimes people got to figure things out on their own.
Yeah.
So so we've talked a little bit about recruiting. I think everybody understands like your history building up a successful team. I'm kind of curious, could you kind of share, like, people, I brought it, like, you hear lots of people always talk about the success, but you never get them to talk about the failures. You mentioned some of the hires and some of the things that have gone wrong, but like, financially, what have been some of the biggest financial hits and things that were like, oh my God, I will never do that again? Like, talk to me about that in like building up your business.
Okay, so let's talk about the biggest financial hit that I ever took, which you pretty know pretty well. In 2007, that was when we were doing pretty well. We weren't quite at our peak yet. We were 500 transactions a year, somewhere in there.
I hope this is not because of the economy.
Oh, no. The economy was good to me. I love the economy. Oh, I love it when the economy sucks. That's prime time for real estate agents. If you know what you're doing, a shrinking economy is good for your business. So that being said, no, it has nothing to do with that. I caught the state of Washington Department of Licensing breaking the law, and I sued them. It's a long story without going into all the details. We won. We beat them. We got a court order that said that they had to stop breaking the law. Well, that all sounded great at the time, but all that did was kick off a battle that lasted over 3 years, almost 4 years, where they now, because we had essentially gone after them, they now had to prove that, hey, wait a minute, you don't come after us, we go after you. And because they had to send that message to all the agents because they didn't want all these other agents suing them for stuff. And so they started a 17-month investigation to try and find out if there was a way to get us out of the business. And long story short, at the end of this investigation, it's basically they called everybody they could find that had ever done business with us. They sent us a letter saying, yeah, looks like you're doing what you're supposed to do, so we're going to drop it. Well, fast forward to 2010. In 2010, we found out they were violating that court order from 2007. So we took them back to court to enforce the court order. This time they decided, hey, rather than fight him in court where we know we're going to lose, why don't we just take his real estate license away and see if he goes away? So with no warning, no hearing, no, hey, we think you're doing anything wrong, they just arbitrarily decided, this was the week that we filed the lawsuit against them. They then decided to suspend my real on 5 o'clock on Friday. They hit send on an email suspending my real estate license and telling the MLS to cancel my 750 listings.
God, that must have been chaos.
Dude, $4.5 million gone, click of an email. 44 team members out of work. 12 people's homes went to foreclosure during the 30 days that it took us to get in front of a judge with them. When we got in front of the judge, what do you think the judge said? The judge said to the state, he's like, you guys are crazy. You should never have done this. You violated their civil rights in 3 different ways. There was no due process. I can't remember what all. There was 3 ways. They forced them to give us our real estate licenses back, and they even ruled that they were grossly negligent for having taken our licenses to begin with. So here's the rub. How much money do you think we got back?
Probably nothing.
0, because they have express and implied immunity. So even though they were grossly negligent, they were not accountable in any way, shape, or form. What's worse is the social media storm didn't care what the truth was. They cared that this big real estate agent lost his real estate license. That was the buzz. Nobody cared to dig deeper and find out that, look, we sued them, not the other way around. Right. So nobody really cared what the truth was. They cared what the sizzle was. And so it was horribly damaging to my reputation and to that of our company. We had to start over from scratch. And it took us, and here's the real lesson. There's 2 lessons here. First of all, lesson number 1, you could be right or you can be rich. Pick one. And so that was the first lesson. So even though we were right, I should never have filed the lawsuit against the state, because you're never going to win against us. And even if you win, you freaking lose. That being said, the second lesson is never give up. It is never too late. You are never down and completely out. You can always do something to move forward. Case in point. Over the next 90 days, we went from brand new again, 0 listings to 227 listings in 90 days. And then from there, I ended up selling the company. And from there, I took 3.5 years off. In 2015, started the coaching company up. But within 2.5 years, we were the -- coaching company in the team space.
That's awesome.
So again, the lesson there is never give up, never quit.
Well, so let me ask you more. So let me ask you about some tactical failures. Like maybe, for example, were there any lead generation things you tested that were a total bust, or software you tested that was total bust, things you put money into that weren't, that didn't work out like you expected?
All the time. So one of the easiest ones to share is radio and TV. Now, we've had great success with radio and TV, but it cost us, I mean, at one point in time, we were spending over 40 grand a month on radio and TV. I'll tell you, before we finally figured out how to make it work right, we had probably invested, I'd say at least $80,000 to $100,000 before, and I don't know the exact number, but I'd say it's in that range before we finally got it profitable. And TV, we never really did a great job on TV. We did very well on radio. We did okay on TV, but TV never did for us dollar for dollar ROI what radio did.
You know what's interesting? It's like every single lead source, it's like a crossword puzzle. Like it's got its own little formula. You got to get the frequency, the messaging. There's all these little ingredients. Like every lead source works, but it's like it's got a timeline before you realize the results, and then there's all these little nuances to make it work.
And it costs money to test all that. And that's the thing. That's where, like what you guys are doing with your franchising, what we do with coaching, where you can really help people avoid a lot of those mistakes is really where a lot of the value is. It's not even just about how much more can you make me? It's how much do you keep me from losing? Because there's so many ways to lose money in this process. Now, that being said, don't be afraid to test stuff out. That's how Christopher got where he's at. That's how I got where I was, because we're not afraid to go test stuff out. We're not afraid to put our money on the line and to roll the dice on an educated risk at times. But I would say TV and radio are the big ones. But there's so much more. Signs, right?
Yeah, I love the call, like the leads on for sale signs. They convert fast. Their conversion rates are high. So.
They are. Other than referrals, they're the best source of leads, I think, in terms of conversion rate and ROI. I don't think there's anything better than signs. It took us a while to figure out how to get that, though.
Let's divert the conversation. For people listening to this that they're aspiring to build a big business, I think our it's like your mental state and what's going through your head, like all that stuff kind of drives your activities, and your daily activities are what drives your results. So with that being said, like how do you get in a good headspace in the morning? What's your morning routine? Like what's kind of the flow of your day look like? And has it changed? Like when you think back to the beginning stage when you were building your real estate business to today, like what are some things you've learned to like optimize your day and like get in the right headspace and like make sure you're planning your day and like using your time wisely?
So for starters, for a decade and a half, I had to quote unquote get in the right headspace. Over time, I learned to wake up in the right headspace. And that's...
Talk to me more about that. How do you wake up in the right headspace versus having to, like Tony Robbins, it's like you got to do the thing that, I forgot what the term is for it, but
getting in state.
Yeah, got to get in state, right? There's some hour of power or whatever. So like what were you doing originally? And then how do you transition to waking up in the right headspace?
Well, as you can tell by the difference in physique between Christopher and I have not gotten up every morning throughout my life and worked out every day, unlike Mr. Captain America over here.
Hey, what? Just for context for people that are watching this right now. So, Michael, I saw you. Was it I think a year ago? And you weighed, what were you weighing? Almost 300 pounds.
284.
Yeah, 284, and now you're down to what? 184, 190.
184, 100 pounds exactly.
Yeah.
But I cheated. I had weight loss surgery, and but this is actually really appropriate for the point that I'm trying to make with the whole being in state when you wake up thing. I don't do half measures. When I decide that something, like I've told myself for years, I'm going to work out and eat right, and I'm going to get in shape and look like Christopher Waters. Yeah, right. Like that's not going to happen. I was delusional to be.
You're a high driving personality. Like, why couldn't you get into the routine of working out? I mean, you're a results oriented person.
Stuff's got to get done. Because I got to get up and I got to work out. I got to get to work. I got to get stuff done. There's things that need to be done today. And if I wake up extra early so I can go work out, and then I do this, and then by the time I get to work, it's like I've lost 3 hours of my day.
So basically what you're saying is fitness, like the taking care of your body is not as a priority as like what you see in front of you, your day work related.
Well, let's put it this way. Most people that look like you do treat their body like a temple. I have treated mine more like an amusement park. Right? So no, I have not, and listen, there is incontrovertible scientific evidence that working out every day is good for you. It increases serotonin, dopamine levels, all that stuff, and it's all very, very, very good. And I recommend it. And if you guys have the discipline to do it, go do it. It'll help you. I promise. It's valuable. That didn't work for me. And so I had to figure out how to trick myself into believing that I had the right serotonin and dopamine levels. Like I had to get my energy level up, and I had to just make the decision that when I get on that first phone call in the morning, my first phone call every day is at 5:00 in the morning. So I live in Seattle.
So literally you fall out of bed and you make a phone call.
No. I wake up in the morning. I get about 4:00. Spend about a half hour, 45 minutes on Facebook. I don't check email or anything like that until afternoon. And by the way, I don't even check it. My staff checks it, and I only get the stuff that they think I need to see.
So from 4 to 4:45, what exactly are you doing on Facebook? It's obviously something very productive for business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I get up and I look at my notifications first. So I'll go through all the notifications. I respond. Anybody that's commented on something I've posted or anybody that's tagged me in a post or whatever, I comment on everything. Anytime somebody said, like there'll be different groups and stuff where people will say, hey, who's the best coach out there? And somebody will mention our name. And so I'll go in there and I'll say, gosh, thank you so much for recommending Club Wealth. Who are your favorite Club Wealth coaches? I'll get them tagging some other people, that sort of thing. So I want to get some momentum going first thing in the morning.
So this is like modern age prospecting of expireds, except it's you waking up at 4 a.m. to start Facebooking people. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it is.
Hey, hold on. Let me tell you what you need to do. So you need to get to the gym at 4 a.m. and do that on the damn treadmill, because you can do them both at the same time.
It sounds a lot like work. Oh my gosh. That sounds like
it's kind of work getting on Facebook, right?
I don't know, man. I could end up breaking a sweat. I'm not sure that's good. We'll see. But anyway, so then I do that, and then I'll take a shower. Now I work from home currently. We're building our new office, so I'm going to start commuting 15 minutes down to our new office, and so I'll have to add that to my morning.
Before 4:45, what happens? What are you doing?
I get in the shower, and by 5 o'clock. Yeah, it takes me 15 minutes. I hurry, take a shower. Look at my hair, right? Done, right? Okay, so I don't have to do much there. I'm a low maintenance guy. My whole closet is filled with blue shirts, right? I'm not a creative guy here, Christopher. I got like a whole bunch of different kinds of blue shirts.
You always got a different tie on. I always see a different tie.
Yeah, I got like 7 different ties I rotate between. And that's it. So I grab that. I usually put my cufflinks on while I'm on my first call. So I dial the call, finish putting my cufflinks on, finish putting my tie on, and I'm live on the call and good to go. And then I'm just on back-to-back calls all day till 6 o'clock at night.
So what's crazy is, so you literally log like an 11-hour day of straight up like productivity to drive business.
12 to 13.
Yeah, 12. So 4 to 4:45, get ready, and then you're on.
Oh, that's 6. Not counting that. I'm just saying from 5 a.m. till 6 p.m. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm not counting the 45 minutes. But
I'm sorry, not 11. So 12, 13 hours of like straight up, like you're 100% focused on driving the business through content generation, content creation. You're following up with people that are mentioning you online. That's like your lead generation system stuff.
Let's take that a step further though. Because it's actually simpler than that. I don't set these appointments. I don't make phone calls to follow up with people. Heck no, I got people for that now. So what I've done is I've structured an entire sales team who does all the lead generation and lead follow-up. And all I do is lead conversion. So now I'm only getting on the phone with people that I should be on the phone with. So if you're, like for example, we have different coaches at different levels.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. So what I think is brilliant about Club Wealth is you got different tiers. I'm sorry, I'm going to sell you for a minute here. And so each tier, right, is got a coach in that tier that's focused on helping somebody, get through that next barrier. So what are those metrics? How does the tier system work with your coaches? You have you said 67 coaches now.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. And these are people selling hundreds of houses all over the country.
Some of them over 1,000.
Yeah.
And so you've
explain the tiers.
So there's 7 tiers. Tier 1 is 0 to 25 units. Tier 2 is 25 to 75. Tier 3 is 75 to 150. Tier 4 is 150 to 250. Tier 5 is 250 to 500. Tier 6 is 500 to 1,000, and tier 7 is 1,000 units and more. So no matter what tier I'm in, my coach is in the tier above me. So they also have a coach in the tier above them, and so forth. So no matter where I am in my business, I've always got a coach who's producing at a much higher level than I am. And when I get to that level, I just move to a different coach inside Club Wealth. And now I have a coach that's, again, doing way more than I am. And people outgrow their coach all the time. And that's okay, right? That's totally fine. But what's interesting is when it comes to these strategy sessions, right? So we do, this is kind of our entry point to coaching with us, and to getting more kind of into how we do things, is a strategy session. And so it's not a sales pitch. It's a coaching call where we do a 55-minute free coaching call for pretty much anybody that wants to. We'll do it once a year for every agent on the planet. But if you're doing 100 deals a year, so that puts you in tier 3, then you'd have a tier 4 coach that would do that strategy session for you, where they would pick apart your business and say, okay, this is what you need to do in the next 12 months. So when I'm doing strategy sessions, that's what I do all day long. I'm either doing webinars like this or podcasts like this, or I'm doing, mastermind calls and group calls for people inside Club Wealth, or I'm on strategy sessions, or I'm on actual coaching calls with clients. And so my day is so highly efficient now that literally there is no white space in my calendar. There is not a minute in my day that is not planned out every day.
How did you come up with the name Club Wealth? I mean, I have an idea, but I've never asked you this. I'm just curious. How did you come up with that?
I don't remember exactly how we came up with it. I can tell you what it really means to us now. Wealth does not necessarily just mean money. Although money is important, that's not really what it's at. We'll teach you how to be a millionaire, but not at the expense of your family. So there's really 5 key areas in your life that you need to build wealth or abundance in, right? Your family, your family, your business, your finances, your health, both physical and mental, and your spiritual. And you've got to build a quality of life or wealth in all 5 of those key areas. And so the whole club thing is, you're not in this alone, and it's not this hierarchy. It's all these great people around you trying to help you accomplish what it is you want to accomplish and celebrate your success at whatever level you're at. You don't need to want to get to 1,000 units a year to be successful in our ecosystem. You need to want to improve on who you are and what you're doing today. And what that looks like for you is going to be different than everybody else.
What's your, Jim Collins, good to great. What's your big, hairy, audacious goal for Club Wealth? Where do you want to take it? How do you envision Club Wealth in 10 years?
Well, that's different than my big, hairy, audacious goal. And I'll say this, and here's the reason why. I don't have a BHAG for Club Wealth in terms of size or number of clients or anything like that. I can tell you that my BHAG is I want to permanently and positively change the lives of 20 million people. And that we do that through coaching. Do you see Club Wealth going in other industries? Because real estate's 2 million people, so that's not very big. No, it's not in the grand scheme of things.
What's another industry you see yourself going into?
I get asked a lot about mortgage and workflows. I would presume that in the next probably 12 months, we'll probably be in mortgage. There's no guarantees, and we won't do it until and unless we believe we can do it at a world-class level. That's going to take the right people. So we're looking for some of those people right now. Cool. So mortgage is one, but there are others. Pretty much any sales related activity.
While you mentioned the word world-class, do you have a copy of your book you can pull up?
Oh my gosh, where's the book?
So for you guys listening to this on iTunes or on YouTube that are not watching this live on Facebook, Michael Hellickson wrote a book called The World Class Buyer's Agent. And actually, when you
I can't find it.
Well, let me ask you. So, guys, check it out on Amazon. World Class Buyer's Agent. Just out of curiosity, so like you built your business on listings, but the book is called World Class Buyer's Agent. Like, why not write World Class Listing Agent? Why did you decide the buy side, and how did the whole book come about? Tell me more about that, because honestly, I've never asked you any of these questions, and I'm curious how did it all come about. You just released it recently.
Yeah, we were actually a bestseller on 3 different Amazon lists, #1 bestseller on 3 different Amazon lists for a long time, for like 3 months. But I've got a list on my board We have 19 books identified that we're writing. We started with the World Class Buyer Agent book because we felt like that was the most underserved and yet needful population in the industry. We really felt like buyer agents were hungry for something specific for them, and we felt like they were getting a lot of bad information, or none at all in a lot of cases. And so we felt like that would be a great place to start. We actually have 2 more books coming out right now.
Can you give us a little sneak peek? What are the titles?
I can tell you one is the World Class Administrative Assistant, okay. And the other is World Class Nurses Events, which is a really interesting book. And that one's a short book. It's very small.
Hold on. World Class Nurses Event.
Yep.
Okay.
So we are
going into the medical field.
No. These are events that real estate agent hosts for nurses. So, here, dude, let me tell you this.
Coming out of left field now. Okay, tell me more.
You're going to freaking love this. I mean, I'm telling you. It is a very simple way for an agent to go out, an agent or a team to go out. You could do it as a solo agent or as a team to go out and bring in 3 to 5 transactions a month very consistently. It takes about 6 months to ramp up to that, but once you get about 6 months into it, it's pretty straightforward. You should be able to drive anywhere from 3 to 5 transactions. We have people doing more than that, but very conservatively, you should be able to drive 3 to 5 transactions a month with a nurses event that will, in the beginning, cost you about $200 to $250 per event, which you do once a quarter. But over time, once you've done a few of these, you get about a year into it, you're not going to spend a dime. Everybody else.
Why target? So it was funny. My mom is a nurse. My grandmother's a nurse. My aunt's a nurse. What's the deal with nurses? They actually typically don't make that much money. So is it targeting them to buy a house?
Yes.
Or recruiting them to be agents? Because sometimes the nurses can be great. Okay.
Although that too, I mean, that can happen. But I'm going to give Coach Andy Kantz, who's one of our Club Wealth coaches, I'm going to give him 100% credit for this. This guy. So Coach Andy's got a story that is ridiculously compelling. He has leukemia, and he's a survivor of leukemia, but I'm telling you, he's been near death many a time, and he spent a lot of time in hospitals. And he noticed and recognized that nurses were not only underserved, but they were very much underappreciated, under-recognized. It's always the doctors that get the credit. It's everybody but the nurses that get the credit and the accolades and all of that. And so Andy said, you know what, these women and men have taken care of me for so much of my life. I'm going to give back to them. And so without any plans for the real estate side or anything like that, he went out and he started doing these nurses events. So he would go down to the local bagel shop and the local bagel and coffee place, and he would host an event once a quarter, and he'd say, hey, if you're a nurse, come down, free bagels and coffee on me. That's it. That's all he did. So he did this a few times, and all of a sudden this went from a handful of people to 50 to 75 to as many. He's getting more than 250 nurses to come out to these things on a regular basis.
And he doesn't own the bagel shop.
Doesn't own the bagel shop, but now we're getting it at a discount, and we're getting vendors to pay for it. So we actually can make it a profit center for his business before ever doing a transaction, but it never fails. He'll get somewhere between 7 and 14 people at the event. So he has a little form that they fill out when they come in. Give me your name, tell, something special, blah, blah, blah. It's a very simple form. It's in the book. We'll share it all in the book. But essentially, there's a spot on the form that says, I'm interested in buying, selling, investing, or, multiples of those. And literally he will get at least 7 to 14 forms filled out at each event. And about 50% of them want to buy and sell. So it's powerful. I mean, it's fun, and he makes.
You can do this for any industry, right? Like do world-class teachers event, firemen, police, all these people that get these really cool loan programs with like free money down payment.
That's right.
Cool. So it's a lead generation lever to build a database of potential clients.
That is correct. That is correct. And so it just started. The book is about nurses events, but we do talk about that, and we talk about the different niches you can do this in. But we started with the nurses events because we've got so much experience now in the nurses events, and they're working so well, and it's very easy marketing. So anyway, that one's coming out, and then we've also got the World-Class Administrative Assistant coming out, and both of those should be out at our event in November at Business Strategy Mastermind Conference.
And so, World-Class Assistant, is that written for the real estate industry or for the entire small to medium business sector?
It's right now. This one is specific to real estate. Okay. So. That said, you will see a general admin assistant book come out from us, but this one here is geared specifically toward real estate assistants. I'm curious, when it comes to writing a book, do you hire a ghostwriter? Are you writing them? What's the process on that? You want to know the best way to make $1 million writing a book? Go out, take $2 million, and then write a book. And you should have about $1 million left when you're done. So, no, I mean, dude, seriously, like it's hard. There's no question. I mean, you've written a book.
Yeah.
What about? Yeah. I mean, you know as well as I do how challenging it is. I mean, the World-Class Buyer Agent book is 434 pages.
This thing right here started off as 1,000.
Yeah, it's hard to pare it down, isn't it?
It's super hard.
Yeah,
very hard.
It's tough. And so, do we have a ghostwriter that helps? Yes, but her role is not to ghostwrite the book. We write the book, so we have collaborative authors. So the World-Class Buyer Agent book, there were, it was myself, Ron Anderson, Misty Bruton, Cherie Benjamin, Brian Curtis. Luigi Caprio contributed, Jesse Zagorski. And so we got together and we all took the pieces that we were best at and we wrote chapters on that. And then there was this huge editing process where, they got to go through their chapters. Then the ghostwriters got to go through all of it. Then we have 2 editors that go through all of it. Then I have to go through all of it. Then it has to go back to editing and then back to me for final approval. It's not easy.
I don't know if I ever told you how we did our book.
I'm curious.
Okay. So it's funny. So I met Frank Klesitz, the guy that started Viral. Mm-hmm. And it's funny when I don't want to go it's a long-winded story. The first time I met Frank, I was like, who is this guy? Seems a little arrogant. Like, who is this guy? And, at first, like at a very brief meeting, the very first time I met him, like it lasted like 5-10 minutes. For what, I don't know. I don't know if he was like hungry or whatever in a rush, he wasn't very present in the moment. And, I kind of heard about, this was like, God, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And, so anyways, like I knew he was doing viral marketing. And I decided to call him up one day and I said, hey, Frank, I'm not interested in paying for your service. I don't want to pay $525 a month. I said, this doesn't seem very complicated. Can I just pay you to like give me your system so I can give it to one of my employees? And he said, sure. And I said, okay, how much do I need to pay? He said, pay me like $3,000. And so I paid him $3,000. He like taught me the whole system. And then a year goes by and I never sent off a single video. I called him
and then you hired him for the 500 or whatever.
And then I finally hired him. And so it's like viral marketing. What's interesting about it is like, it's not complicated, but honestly, that $500, it's like or $525, whatever it is. It's like a accountability partner to be telling you to push out content, and then they also, they give me content ideas, and so it's execution. There's that saying, right? It's like like 99% of plans die not because of a failure to plan, but because of a failure to execute. So, anyways, I was a viral client for a couple of years, and he writes these things called the magical seller emails. Have you heard about this?
The seller ones, no.
So he has something, I don't know, he came up with some funny term for it called magical seller emails. And I would send these out like once or twice a year. And like literally I'd send one out and my inside sales guy would be like, hey, what did you just do? We just booked 14 listing appointments in the last 4 hours. And so I ended up doing a testimonial for Frank about how awesome it was. Cause like I like sent him an email and I was like, this is amazing. This is the most amazing thing. the thing people should realize if you're listening to this is my database was huge. I had like 50,000 plus people in the database. So, anyways, point of story, I did some testimonials, got to know him better. And, I would meet Frank at events and stuff. And he kind of figured me out. Like, I'm just a very thorough, analytical, but also driven person. And he's like, Chris, I have never met anybody that's like, thought through so many different elements of the real estate business at such a deep level and been so obsessed about it. And he said, you should write a book. And I said, well, first off, I did horrible in English and writing in high school and college. And so I was like, I don't know about writing a book. But he said, here's what I'll do. I will interview you for 3 days straight from sun up to sundown. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about the topics and how you would, orchestrate the chapters. And for 3 days, literally, I'll interview. And then what we'll do is we'll convert that audio file into a text, and then you'll cross collaborate with an editor and with somebody else on your team to make sense of it all. And so what's kind of interesting, and a lot of people may not know this, but Frank's wife, Katie, her dad was one of the very first, if not the first, regional partner to write Gary Keller a check for $1 million for the regional partner rights of Keller Williams.
Really?
Yes. And so I learned that, and then his wife was also an agent, and I started realizing like Frank is running this email marketing company, and like he literally knows more just because through us, his wife and the dad and going to masterminds and he knows more than like 99% of real estate agents because he's learning from people at the very, very top. And so, I didn't have very high expectations, but like for 3 days, like literally we would start at like 8 o'clock in the morning. There's one part on the third day on Sunday. There's a part in the audio recording. My proofreaders started laughing. I'm like, what's so funny is like, I can hear Frank snoring. He fell asleep because I'm like, rambling on and on and on. And it's the third day and you hear him snoring. And I'm like, Frank, wake up.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I'm not saying this because I think you're boring, but it does not surprise me that Frank would fall asleep at that point in time. But that's hilarious. I'm going to have to tease him about that. We use Frank. We love Viral. They're great folks. We have great success with them.
I mean, it's, again, I don't know what anybody's outside perception is, but, he's one of the few people that like authentically really cares about the customer. And like, you may not pick up on that if you meet him for the first time, because that was my experience. But then as I dive deeper, I realized, man, this guy is highly connected into the industry and like really wants to add a lot of value to the industry. And he's just very, very creative, a creative marketer. So anyways, side note, that's how our book came about. And so Bradley Pounds and I, Bradley was my first buyer's agent that I ever hired. Brad became a buyer agent team there. So we, cross collaborated on the book and made sense of it all. And that's how our book came about.
That's awesome. Yeah. But even after that, even after you go through that process, there's all the editing and then paring it down from 1,000 pages down to, whatever you ended up with.
Let me ask you a question. So I think this would be good for the listeners to hear. So who is well positioned to write a book, and should they write a book? Or let's say they're in an industry already. There's lots of people that will white label a book and like put your name on there. Like, what's your whole opinion of using books as like credibility building tools, and like, who's ideal for a book? Who's not? Who should go license it? What's your thought on that?
That's a tough question. And I say this because you have done a fantastic job of using your book and to be an entry point to your overall marketing funnel. Yeah. In fact, you're going to be teaching us how to do that. And I'm actually appreciative and looking forward to that. I know we're going to be flying your guy up here hopefully soon to have that conversation and to dial that in. I have not done a good job of using our book as an entry point to our marketing funnel. That said, can it be? Yes, it can be. You've proven that. You've proven that it can help you reduce your client acquisition costs and so forth. And so I think that for me, the time for me that it was right to write a book is I had a lot of my lead generation already automated. I had money coming in. I don't need the money from the book. I have the available time to spend on the book. And for me, I really wanted to help people with the book. And so for me, it was more about how do I get this out there and help people understand there's a better way versus how do I make it, work for me from a lead generation standpoint. Now you're helping me monetize it and helping me use it as a lead generation strategy, which is huge. And yes, I wish I would have known that a long time ago, and I would have started with that. But
so there's a lot of companies out there that'll, as an agent, let you put your name on a book. Do you feel like that's a good thing to spend your money on?
Nope. 99% of the time I don't.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely. And we get offers like that all the time. Now, it depends on the book, and it depends on, is this just, am I just paying to have my name on a book? And, the going rate is anywhere from $1,000 to $15,000, to be a part of one of these collaboration books. But the real problem with those is most of those books kind of suck. Right? They're usually not a well thought out book. They're usually just random thoughts, different chapters from different people on different topics. When, however, it's a well thought out book and it's really educating the reader, and it's something that's going to really, like our book, we consistently sell books every single day. People are buying our book. And
they're just buying it through Amazon, and then just through the recognition of y'all's business, and you're not actively advertising the book.
No. I'm not. And yet we're getting, at least a couple of sales a day, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually not bad, especially since we're not marketing. But the reason people are buying is because people are getting value out of it. And so for the co-authors for that book, yes, I think there was value there. If people aren't buying, with most of those books where you pay to be a co-author for a book, what's really happening is you're paying for a really expensive business card. And that's really all most people ever use those books for. So I would say 9 times out of 10, the answer should be no, for most people. That being said, there are some exceptions to this. Like Nolly Williams has a book product out that's
Nolly Williams, right?
Nolly, sorry. I would say
he wears a cowboy hat. He's actually from here in Austin, where I'm located.
Yeah.
But he uses it as a for agents, for brand credibility building, specific to short sales.
That's right. And it's affordable. It's not, you don't have to pay thousands of dollars to be a part of his book. You can just white label it basically. And it works for that. It helps if you're fairly young in your career and you feel like you need a little bit more credibility. That's one way you can get it.
I think he puts it with his pre-listing presentation prior to the appointment. He sends them this, like an agent can have their name on the book, and they pay us a very small fee, and it goes with the pre-listing and just helps you stand out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, but again, by and large, I'd say err in favor of, you probably don't need to spend a bunch of money to write a book.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in tier 4 and higher and the money is no big deal, and it's, like I said, it's the kind of book that is going to really bring value to the reader, that's a very different story. Like your book, Christopher, checks all the boxes, right? It brings a ton of value to the reader. You're already producing at a high level. You've already got dollars coming in. So it's, the cost of time and dollars for you is not a big deal. And that book went viral because of how much value it brought to people.
Michael, I'm looking at the clock. We've already been on here for about an hour. So
no worries. I'm late for an appointment.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. So guys, go check out Club Wealth. If you guys are trying to build your business and you're looking for a coach, check out Club Wealth. They have multiple tiers. Check out Michael's book, World-Class Buyer's Agent. I'm excited to hear about those 2 new ones coming out. I appreciate you being a guest on here today, Michael. And we got to spend some time together in Vegas at the Inman Conference. And I looked at the clock when you and I were together, and 3 hours went by like that. So anyways, it is always great to connect with you. Thank you again for being on CEO Secrets. I hope everybody listening to this on iTunes or on YouTube took some key things away. And until next time, Michael, I'm sure I'll see you here in the near future at some event, probably.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.